Is February 15th, 313 podcast.
Do you like free Bitcoin? Did I hear free Bitcoin? Then go to www.5secondmoviequiz.com. That's 5secondmoviequiz.com with the number 5. Win instantly by guessing the name of the movie clip on the site, and you could win free Bitcoin. It is always free to play. www.5secondmoviequiz.com sponsors 313 Believe podcast. Thank you.
313 Believe podcast.
Allan Lengel.
Oh, hi, Alan. How are you?
Good. Hey, how are you?
This is Harry from the 313
Hey,
Believe
Harry.
podcast.
Hey.
How are you doing today?
Good. How's everything?
Excellent. No, excellent. I know it's a fun day. I think I may have met you one time.
Right. I think, did we meet at the when Stormy Daniels was?
Yes.
Yeah.
That crazy
8 Mile Road there. Right.
That crazy fiasco. So welcome to 313 Believe podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll do I really appreciate you coming by. It's
Sure.
going to be like a quick little 15-minute
sure.
interview. But tell me a little bit of.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes. Yes,
okay,
yes, I can.
Okay,
so
good.
tell me a little bit about your background and a little bit about how you came to work with Deadline Detroit.
Deadline Detroit, sure.
Yep.
I worked, I went to Michigan State. I
Okay.
worked in Portland at the Oregonian newspaper, and then I eventually came back here. I worked at Monthly Detroit Magazine. Then I went to work at the Detroit News. I was in the Lansing Bureau for 3 years. And then I came downtown and covered federal courts, federal law enforcement till 95. And then I went on strike for 19 months. And then I went to the Washington Post there for 11 years, took a buyout, came back here and started Deadline Detroit with Bill McGraw, who had been at the Detroit Free Press and then was doing public relations at CompuWare.
Wow.
And CompuWare Ventures ended up being the ones that invested with us. And we started Deadline Detroit in April of 2012. So we've been doing it ever. Bill actually has moved on. He's going to be doing some freelancing for us, but so we got a second round of investment last year from Mad Dog Technologies, which is Pete Carmano's company.
Okay.
And so it's I think sort of a capsule of how we got here.
Your history. So what prompted you guys to found Deadline Detroit?
You know what, we just thought it'd be fun. I had another website when I left the Washington Post. I started another website, which I still have. It's sort of a side thing. It's called TickleTheWire.com, and it covers federal law enforcement news, everything, FBI, DEA, Justice Department, and it's right now. It's more. I initially did it full time, so there was original reporting and aggregating, and now it's just really aggregating. But I thought it would be fun to have our own. Actually, I'd gone to Pete Carmanos for investment for Tickle the Wire, and then Bill McGraw was working with Pete, and Bill said, well, maybe we should, why don't we do our own little newspaper online here? And Pete said, yeah, great, let's get that guy and let's do it. So we did it, and I thought it would just always be fun to sort of create your own, newspaper.
Sure, absolutely. Well, online newspaper, correct?
Online,
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't have a print edition.
Right, which is great and seems to
Right.
be the trend anyway, obviously. So
Right.
you started Deadline Detroit around 2012, an interesting time, right? Like right around pre Detroit bankruptcy. So where so how have you enjoyed the now obviously people are enjoying the rebirth of Detroit, but at the same time, where do you see Detroit headed? Where because there are people saying different things. What is your take? Because you've had a history.
Yeah. What's fantastic? There's no denying. I mean, people talk about a comeback, and then some people say there's no comeback, and the comeback's overstated. I think clearly there's a comeback in the core of the city, and the core meaning Midtown, downtown, Corktown, and then even the North End. Now, I think you're starting to see some center area. You're seeing some stuff, and then you're seeing some of the grand neighborhoods that were grand, and then they sort of declined, and then they sort of, like I think Indian Village, Palmer Woods, and some of the neighborhoods have somewhat remained stable, Sherwood Forest, University District. So I think you're slowly seeing that. So, but there's still a lot of parts of the city that are really just like terrible.
Mm-hmm.
The crime is too high. The services are inadequate. And so it's, in fact, I just wrote a column, which I have not posted yet. I'm going to post it tonight. Okay. And basically saying that Detroiters need to have suburban expectations. And meaning that I think for too long we've settled for people sort of dismissing things of, bad police response times and all that, and saying, well, what do you expect? It's Detroit. And I said, at some point, we should have higher expectations, and so I've got a column actually that I'm going to be posting tonight about that. That I think we just have to have higher expectations. We have all this development going on. Dan Gilbert's building the tallest building, the Hudson's tower, and yet. You never hear one word about schools. Like, how do schools fit in with that? What is he doing? What are the developers doing to try to make sure there's schools? And I mean, it's not a benevolent thing. It's a smart business thing to do. How can you keep building and building, and with the expectation that people are only going to live in the city till they have children, and then they're going to go to the suburbs where, if they're paying taxes already, they might as well get the benefit of the schools there. And so I think I think.
Do you think Dan Gilbert's vision, this real estate vision and build up of the city, is a little short-sighted? It's not equal. It's not well balanced.
I give. I mean, there's some ways to he's been he's got a case dealing with the Justice Department and stuff like that. But you have to give him due credit. When I got back here I came back in 2011. A little time after that, he bought a couple big buildings downtown, and my first reaction was like, what is he thinking? It's just a dead zone.
Right.
And he has a vision. He's a guy who knows how to connect the dots. And I always say this, I give him credit because I live in Midtown now. Prior to that, I was living downtown near the stadium. And he gets it. If you're going to build, you have to create a safe environment. So, his security guards are riding on bikes, walking around so that it's safe to walk around. His workers, get shuttled around. They get, they walk around in safe environments. So he's one of the few people, and I've previously criticized the Ilitches for they've bought all this land. I know when you go to the hockey game at the Joe, the Ilitches didn't provide any security out there. Now they've got their thing down, Little Caesars Arena. I mean, you walk around that neighborhood, they're not providing any patrols or anything. If Gilbert were to own that, you'd see patrols there. You'd see a safer environment. So, we have to, when these people are getting all this, the Ilitches in particular are getting a lot of free money, free tax money to help with their developments, which is fine. There's an incentive there. But I think we also have to re-examine some of these developments and ask ourselves, can we get somebody else in here who's not going to require as much taxpayer money, incentives to build that? Because right now, I mean, Detroit has to stop acting like it's a pauper, like that we have to beg people to come in and develop. It's like these people are coming in and making money. They're building portfolios. I mean, Gilbert and and the Ilitches are making money off of Detroit, and whether it's actually liquid cash at this point is a question. But they're building a portfolio that's phenomenal,
Right.
and so we have to. We have to spread that out in the neighborhoods. We have to, the idea is hopefully with all the development that's going on that, and it's going to happen unless there's a crash, and a recession or whatever, people aren't going to afford to, a lot of people won't be able to afford to live downtown or midtown, except, some people will, but a lot won't. And so the idea is that spills over into, the north end of the city, and that spills over into other neighborhoods like West Village and East Village on the east side. And so, I think that's ideally the thing, but we also have to, there's still a lot of poverty in the city, and, poverty comes with, it's fallout of, crime and, a lot of other things. And,
Sure.
So.
Right. And I work, believe it or not, in my other life right now, currently in real estate, and I hear a lot. I see a lot of the activity of people, buying houses in Detroit, rehabbing them, selling them. It's like the Wild West out there and gold rush time.
Sure.
But then I hear one of my real estate associates is like, oh, he's doom and gloom, and Detroit is going to go into a major decline, and Dan Gilbert's going to get into trouble, and you'll see, and he's going to get arrested, and we're going to go through a major recession, and it's just going to be a collapsing. Once again, Detroit will hit rock bottom, like 224 or whatever. So what? Do you think?
Well, it scares me. It does.
Valid?
Yeah, it scares me a little bit because I see the prices. I was in Washington in 2006, 2007, when the market just kept blowing up, and it was so easy to get a loan.
Right.
There was so much fraudulent activity going on, including from the big banks, and it was so easy to get a loan that a $300,000 townhouse that was selling out in the outer suburbs of Virginia was suddenly selling for $600,000, and then people started buying in advance of the homes being built because they wanted to lock in the price, and by the time they locked in the price, they paid $600,000. The homes were suddenly worth $400,000 and $300,000 again. The market had collapsed, and
right.
I'm a little concerned that where's all the money coming from? I see some of the stuff that's being bought. Like, who's buying a 2-bedroom, $600,000 condo? That, in Midtown or downtown? It's like some of them are, empty nesters who, are living out in the suburbs who say, hey, let's try, some urban living. Some have children, they have some wealth. They have their children who are graduating from college and they're getting a job at Quicken Loan or whatever. And so they're buying the condo as an investment for their for their kids or for them, letting their kids live there. And so it scares me a little bit to see where, the homes are more expensive than, in Bloomfield Hills and
right.
And they're condos, and condos are also sort of, you're in real estate, some people question the investment value of condos versus homes and all that. And so, it scares me to think what a recession might do to all that. Certainly the condos during 2006, 2007, and 2008, when the crash came, all those condos converted to apartments because nobody could get a loan. Right. And so, then the rents started going up, and, and rents are pretty high in the city right now. Midtown, downtown, the rents are, you can get the same. You can get places in Birmingham for probably cheaper than you can, in some of the places now downtown and midtown.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so it's like I said, I walk down Woodward and I see like a sign that says condos, $500,000 to $750,000, and it's a little mind boggling because it's not, you see places like New York, Miami, where you also see a lot of foreign money coming in. You see people, in New York, they're whatever, they live in Spain and they have, they're wealthy and they want to be cool and have a place, some condo in New York. And so, they have the money, but, it scares me to see a place like Detroit where the wealth isn't infinite. I mean, there's some wealth in this town, but it's kind of concentrated, like the big wealth. And so I just wonder who's going to be gobbling up, all these places, and are they going to be able to afford the payments? Assuming that they're not paying cash for the whole thing.
Right.
It worries me that people, there could be layoffs, and I mean, look, one of the biggest employers is
GM.
Quicken. Yeah, GM, and then
Quicken
and then
also.
You have Quicken Loans, and what is Quicken Loans based on the mortgages? Well, what happens when the economy, sinks? It's like people stop buying the big ticket items like cars and and homes. And so what's that going to do to the whole thing? So I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, in some ways it's exciting, and in some ways it's scary to see what's going on. And then what does that mean if the core of, what we've built, this core, what does that mean for the neighborhoods? What's going to happen to, we're going to have to lay off more police if there's less, income coming in, and then recessions maybe. I assume, and I'm making an assumption here, that the casinos, which bring in some revenue to the city, that there'll be less gambling, less revenues for the city. So I just hope there's a plan, and I'm not optimistic that there is, but I hope there's a plan with the city for a rainy day, like when things hit a down mark.
Right. Like because we could implode like a .com explosion,
right.
implosion.
Yeah, exactly. Silicon Valley. I mean, we've seen that where things are,
overinflated.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw that in, let's say, 2005, 2006, and I was at the Washington Post at the time, and there were people predicting there was going to be a crash in the housing market. And, I think some people don't realize how big builders are and how much, they bring in quarterly annual revenues, sometimes, equal to the car companies. And, they're a big part of our economy. And so, and then it's also people have their money tied up in real estate. A lot of people, that's where their money's invested. So it's, like I said, it's exciting to see all these new places coming up and all these new restaurants coming up. Yeah. And I mean, the one thing I see, there's so many restaurants popping up in Midtown. I mean, since I've come back to town, Midtown, downtown, Corktown, I mean, it's amazing. But I think you're going to start to see some of them get weeded out, the ones that are just okay.
Right.
Particularly if they're pricey, okay. I mean, there's some, like, I think Selton Standard seems to be one that's going to be around for a long time. And She-Wolf.
Which one?
Selton Standard.
Okay.
Over there on 2nd and Selton. And I think, like, She-Wolf, I mean, those are big successes. And, Tecoy, or, is another big one. But there's, I think you'll see some that they're going to close. I mean, you're going to have to actually.
You see some really cool stuff. I interviewed the top chef at Green Dot Stables.
Oh, okay.
But then he lost. They closed their Fist of Curry, if you were familiar with that.
Oh, one. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already happening here and there, but
right. I think I'm trying to remember. Was a fish place first in that spot, and then that closed, and they turned to Fist of Curry, and the Fist of Curry was probably less than a year. And now I can't remember what's something else. I think there's something else going on. Is I think it's maybe Mexican fare, but. It's. I mean, the difference is like when I came back here in 2011, the idea that, I mean, I'd get excited when I'd see like a little, the Greek diner opening in the Penobscot building,
right?
And just little things that showed some like faith.
Right.
And if some faith, and they weren't huge things, but and then slowly, then the dime store opened, and the Chrysler House there,
right?
And I thought, wow, here's another restaurant. Oh my God! And then they just started kind of in a flurry, and so in the beginning, I think you don't have to be that great as long as you're just opening in Detroit. Because when I used to I worked at the Detroit News, and I came back downtown in 1988 until 1995 till I went on strike, and there was a pretty good selection of restaurants downtown. There were quite a few restaurants, and it was a great scene for lunch. And then just, one after another, they just closed, and it was just, and now you're seeing a resurgence again, which is great. And part of that is Dan Gilbert has sort of populated the ponds. He's brought all these workers in and sort of created this instant city through the transfer. And so, I give him credit for, he is a visionary person, and it's like, unlike the Maroons, who tried to portray themselves as visionaries with the train station, when in fact they were just really like slumlord speculators holding on to something and not doing a thing about it, except preserving an icon of blight that every out-of-town TV reporter would stand in front of. Right. And then when they sold it to Ford, they were patting themselves on the backs for being such visionaries of, when in fact, they were just like slumlord speculators.
They were sitting on it.
Yeah, Gilbert, if you buy something, I think, and you're in the real estate, so you would know better, but my feeling is, if you buy something, like you buy it in 2012, and then suddenly you're buying another thing in 2013 and 14, 15, and then you're starting to create something. But the Maroons were probably sitting on that train station, I don't know, for 15, 20 years. Yeah. That's not vision. That's just,
they were just holding on to
You've got money. You've got some money to be able to, play a little bit with the real estate market. But,
well, and speaking of which, I really like you to come, to the podcast maybe sometime, if you're available on a Friday, like in March, to actually the Foundation Hotel, where it's a great new restaurant and hotel.
Okay, is that where you guys are doing the podcast?
Yeah, that's where we usually do it on Fridays.
Okay. And I didn't realize you were so close. Yeah, we're right at we're downtown, right on Griswold. So
yeah, we usually on Fridays.
We're literally blocks away.
Yeah, usually Fridays between like 3:30 and 5:30, and
okay. Sure.
Yeah, so I would love maybe reach back out to you, but you've been fascinating. I really want to talk to you about more interesting, juicy stuff. But it seems to be brightening today, so it seems to be a little warming up a little bit out there.
Right, for sure.
I appreciate you coming on our podcast, 313 Believe. But yes, I would like to have you physically there, Allan, and I really appreciate it. You sound like very, very fascinating. It really whets the appetite. I would love to be able to maybe we'll do a podcast over lunch next time, or dinner, or early dinner. All right. Thank you so much, Allan, and we look forward. And we'll check out your article tonight, coming, you said, on Deadline Detroit.
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Very, very fascinating. Thank you, Allan.
Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.